Not another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. As you talk to me like the first. I feel joy, I feel pain, I feel the same. When the night is gone, I'll be alone.
DJ Sequence.
In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. As you talk to me like the first you. I feel joy, I feel pain, 'cause it's still the same. When the night is gone, I'll be Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. Another night, another dream, but always new. It's like a vision of love that seems to be true. Another night, another dream, but always new. In the night, I dream of love so true. In the night, in my dreams, I'm in love with you. As you talk to me like the first. I feel joy, I feel pain, 'cause it's still the same. When the night is gone, I'll be alone.
Look around and see the beauty of the sky. Here for you and me, a wonderful life. Look around and see the beauty of the sky. Here for you and me, a wonderful life. No need to run and hide. It's so wonderful, wonderful life. No need to laugh and cry. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. Here I go, out to sea again. The sunshine feels in my hair. Dreams hang in the air. Gold in the sky, wind in my blue eye. You know it feels unfair. There's magic everywhere. No need to hide and cry. It's
Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing this fine Friday? He says quizzically. Not really knowing what day of the week it actually is. Are we all winning? Unless you are, of course, James Wynn. Who, to be fair, has an absolutely epic tale. I mean, to be in the position of being up $80 million or whatever it is in a week is pretty incredible. We're all like, well, if that was me, I would have kept it. But the reality is, if you were so, risk averse, you never would have made it in the first place. At least I wouldn't. There is no way on earth, unless there were the best conditions possible, that I could turn 4 million into 80 in a week in a 3% range on Bitcoin. No way. No way. I'm just not that risky. So fair play to the lad. You can't retire off 80 million anyway? Yeah, it's true. What a shit lifestyle. You might as well just go on job seekers with that kind of money. Never had a successful swing perps long. Got one on 104. Nice. Would have gained just as much as lost on in the first place. Yeah, that's the sort of problem with leverage and not having a kind of repeatable system that, over time goes up and to the right. But on like an intraday basis does not. Most people's P&L curves don't look like this. They look like this, at best. Up, down, up, down, up, down. But over time trending up and to the right. I say most people. Most people do it consistently and for a long period of time. But anyway, how's everyone doing? Are we all winning? Let's firstly shout out to BonkBot for sponsoring the stream. There is a ref link somewhere, which is in the comment section of YouTube. So if you are an on-chain degenerate / legend who multiplies 1 soul into 100,000 soul in a week, then go check it out. The tools that they're building are absolutely incredible for on-chain trading. Sounds like a 400x multiplier. Yeah, it's pretty wild, And yeah, be the James Wynn of on-chain. Just if you get to 80 million, maybe take half of it off, secure your life, and then go back. Then go back to normal. It is pretty incredible though. I keep going back to it. And everyone's fascinated by it, right? Because from the sounds of it, just a normal chap who has kind of played the game for a long time and eventually kind of added size to his very degenerate trading style and has now obviously blown a lot of that size, started a little shitcoin to recoup some of that monies. We'll probably run that into tens, if not hundreds of millions, and yeah, recoup a lot of his losses through that. I mean, a lot of the thing is, if you've got that kind of following and traction, I'm sure he'll be alright. I'm sure he'll, Twitter paychecks will cover his probable living expenses, but yeah. Anyway, enough about him, even though he is kind of the main focal point of Twitter at the moment. Because, well, let's be honest, there's not too much else going on from what I've gleaned. I've been away pretty much for 2 weeks. Not, away, but just not 100% dialed into the market. Been in New York for a week, which was great, apart from nearly getting mugged, which was an interesting life experience, shall we say. Yeah. But I'm doing good, man. New York was amazing. Posting the wrong meme isn't life in jail. Yeah, I mean, I went and bought some Trump merchandise, which my wife wouldn't let me wear out. So I got the MAGA hat. I got the I got a t-shirt of him after he got shot, putting his hand up, saying let's go. And what else did I get? The Trump mug. Yeah, the Trump mug's a delight to the collection. But anyway, let's start talking about some market stuff. How is everyone feeling? Bullish, bearish, in between? It's over. We're structurally fucked. We've lost trend lines. It's going to zero. What's the plans? How are you all thinking about this market? Bull. Looks like you're a Altcoin maxi. Kind of. It's just, you know, what's the good beta? So while you're all giving me your views, because, you know, active participation is required, otherwise you get banned. You know, what's standing out? Like, obviously BERT is absolutely incredible in terms of beta, but it's quite difficult to trade, right? Lower liquidity, blah blah blah. Very good meme, but you know, don't want to trade it on a perps basis. Just buy spot and leave it. You know, Altcoin is one of the best in terms of performance from the lows, as it has been for some time. So, you know, am I a Altcoin maxi? Yeah, I guess so. You know, I've spent a long time trading Altcoin over the last couple of months purely because it's been in play and it's been easy, right? Look at it. Like, I've been trading it for this entire period, and it's been pretty much the easiest coin to trade for me, right? Market goes down, you wait for some sign of life, you get long, and that's it. Really not particularly difficult. I'm not saying that it'll work out every time, obviously. That is certainly not the case. But, yeah. Bullish, bull, it hurts for a few days. Bull if this area holds. Think we should have some wild moves this month. Want to learn spaghetti chance. Looks like time to join Paragon. Yeah, man. I mean, like, when the market gets a little bit quieter, it's the best time to learn. Like, my attitude is always that that if the market's like on fire, you probably don't want to be like focusing on learning too much in that time, right? You want to have got yourself to a position where whilst you're trading and you're actively learning by participating, by looking at your trades, reviewing your trades, understanding what went right, what went wrong, and really like facing into the fire. And that is the best way, in my opinion, to learn, right? But before that, you can practice the theoretical, you can learn about different things, you can really examine various indicators and understand what they're trying to tell you, and go, okay, well, if I'm using RSI like this, is this the right way to use RSI? Like, you can go into some of like Magus's content where he talks about, you know, I don't know, auction market theory, or, you know, CBDs, what other stuff, TPO, all that kind of stuff, and like literal in-depth order flow information, and decide if you want to use that as part of your system. And you should be building out your system in more boring times, and then when it comes to the fiery times, when the market is literally, you know, everything's running and flying, you've kind of been through everything and from a theoretical perspective, and it's just time to put it in practice. And for me, it's like, well, I don't think I've missed too much in the last couple of weeks, but I could be wrong. You know, all right, I've missed someone getting liquidated in on 100 million, you know, position in a 3% range on Bitcoin. Like, that's, I suppose, quite an interesting thing to have missed. But in terms of like major altcoin moves, it's not been incredible, right? Early Chai stream, let's fucking go. Yeah, we'll be back to normal next week, which is Tuesday evenings UK time. The last 2 weeks have just been odd because I've been in London for a week and then New York for a week, essentially. So yeah, I've been kind of traveling a little bit, but yeah, need it. Need the Charlie stream. Yeah. So I mean, everyone kind of said it's bullish. What happened now that I nearly get mugged? Basically, I came out of Tiffany's and had a little bag, and some guys followed me, and then sort of surrounded me and started like shouting at me and calling me racist and various other things, and it was like, what the fuck's going on? And they were all like big black guys, and then some guy shouted NYPD, and they all scattered, and they just fucking liked it, and apparently they followed me from like Tiffany's, and it all happened in about 10 seconds, so it was just very surreal. Obviously, that was fine, nothing happened, but it was like, okay, that was fucking weird. Up until that point, I was like, oh, New York's really friendly and nice and really good. But yeah, that was a bit weird. Can we break down your Filecoin trades? Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's go to Bitcoin first, because Bitcoin really like establishes our bias from an intraday perspective and from a high time frame perspective, right? We want to be conscious, like if Bitcoin is at range lows, so let's just doodle out a quick range and go, okay. So, if Bitcoin is like this, yeah, and we can see that there's lowering momentum into the lows of a range, do we really want to be getting balls deep long altcoins? Yeah, not particularly. The way I'm seeing Bitcoin at the moment is kind of like this. So we have, go into the 4-hour chart, and this is what I drew out at the start of the week as kind of my, if we dip into this former like range and this demand zone, and we get a decent reaction off it, then to me that's just a sign of bullish continuation. We've tried to push lower, and the market has said nope, don't want to do that. We want to, we're willing to participate and buy here. We're willing to step in because Bitcoin is at a decent value, 104.5, whatever, somewhere around there. And then we just continue, and yeah, we are in an uptrend on a high time frame basis. We have liquidated the hyper liquid whale. We've done all this wonderful stuff. From my perspective, we're still in an uptrend. This meme diagonal is broken, but from a market structure perspective, we are still in a pretty reasonable uptrend. This is one of the first times that we've actually pushed to potentially form a lower low, like down here. But the reality is we haven't done that yet. I'm going to bet on trend continuation to the upside, and that's kind of my bet. It's probably a B sort of tier setup. It's not a good one at all. It's not like this is amazing. This is I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. My sizing isn't as big as it could be. Just to be very clear, it's much better to take on more risk down here than it is up here, for obvious reasons, I would hope. So, there's not a lot going on in terms of like divergences. Like, it's a bit janky, but it is there. So you've got an hourly divergence-ish into, this former range. So we can hope that we do something like this and we reclaim the range low up here. That would be a better setup in my opinion, because you've got the reclaim and you've got the confirmation that this was the higher low. That was indeed the higher low there. But I'm choosing to participate slightly earlier with smaller size. So that's the trade-off, right? But hopefully all of that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to flip bearish here. I just don't want to. The one thing that would get me bearish, because it's always good to have that kind of scenario of, well, what would make you bearish, and we'll go through it, because there was a reason that I shorted these highs here, and I was comfy for literal months as the market died and everyone else was shitting their panties. If I look at this as just a real simple, distributive top up here. I don't know how I've done that with the, that looks really weird. Is it just me? Or maybe it's just my monitor. That looks really, really strange. It looks like it's 2 shades of blue, pretty much. The reason that I thought that this was like a distributive top as opposed to, just a range before, like consolidation before the next leg up, is that we had this sweep up here of these highs, right? Had the sweep, and then we just couldn't push past. And in one of these low time frame rotations, that's when I got short. I think it was this one here, and I had a stop above this high. Apologies. Still kind of jet lagged and recovering ever so slightly. If we get the similar kind of setup here, and we get like a lower high here, or we get a sweep of this high, and we get something like that, a lower high there, then that's the only time that I would be willing to take on a short, because what you've got is, in scenario 1, where you get this move up, and the rejection essentially of here, of these former highs, well, that's kind of you've gone from an uptrend, a strong uptrend, to the start of a range. And the start of that range, you've then established a high. And that's when you can like take on a short, in my opinion, because you know that structurally this has changed, right? That's why I didn't short here, because this was still a strong uptrend. Too early in the trend process to say, well, okay, this is a range and this is consolidating. Whereas if we get a little bit of consolidation here, that's when we can start looking to either just sell spot, hedge, or fully take on a net short position. Now, I don't want to do that. It's just let's talk about it. Let's like think through some plans. Let's theorize so that when those things actually happen, we're kind of prepared for it, right? We go, well, okay, that's fine. I can take a short here. I can do this. I can do whatever. Doesn't mean we're going to do it. Doesn't mean we have to do it. My preference is always be long, because longs have infinite upside potential, whereas shorts, you can only get 99.9% off a single short. And the reality is, for me personally, with some spot, the best scenario for me is this is just a retest. It's just a retest of that demand, and we go, right? And we keep going. And I'm kind of a firm believer that with everything that's going on, the other point is actually this. I kind of forgot this as well, which is former highs. And anyone who's seen the schematic that I posted on Twitter, an absolute ton, is you get this all-time high here. You get this breakout, and the breakout's usually on pretty decent strength. And then you get this, and then everyone cries and gets chopped up in this consolidation. The consolidation is usually around the former highs, and then it just fucks off. That's kind of what's happening here, right? Like, we're almost at those like previous high levels. Chop it up a bit and then just send it, in my opinion. Like that's kind of it. It's a retest of former highs. Nothing too exciting at this point. Retest of local former consolidation. I'm just going to choose to believe it's bullish continuation. Can you check PAL? Yeah, most alts are fucked. Let's have a look. Doesn't mean I don't have bags of them though. Like, yeah, PAL's just... bearing in mind that I was talking about PAL down here, maybe? Or was it here? I don't know. And we had this massive run. I did a thread on PAL in September, I think it was. Maybe it wasn't September. I think it was down here. Actually, it might have been. Don't know. I'm pretty sure I did a thread of it at some point. Well, I know I did a thread of it, but let's have a peep. It's probably at the top. Oh, 1st of September 2023. Yeah, so I did a fucking thread of it, like, down here somewhere. And then it ran. Fucking wild. Mute the music? What? No, we can't mute the music. We need the music. Need a bit of vibes, man. I mean, it with a lot of these alts, just looks like shit, man. Like, it just looks like Reddit focus. Hello, are we back? Hello. My OBS just DC'd for some reason. There's just too much. And like, why would PAL run from here? That's my kind of question. Like, it's a great project, I was very bullish on it. It was on meta. It was very good. But like, looking at it now, like, it's just not particularly wonderful. Compared to other alternatives. Like, look at this in terms of performance over the past however many months. Where are we? So I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't been, okay, did 158%, pretty decent. But then you go to something like Altcoin, which, I know it's really boring that I'm just so focused on it, but the reason I'm so focused on it is because you do this from the lows, and you go, well, that's done 715%, so which one do you want to be long in? Which one do you want to be jumping on board? Like, to me, it's quite easy. How do you contrast this chart with SPX 6900, which did actually leg up? I mean, that's the thing, right? You want to be long the winners. And everything that I preach and talk about is the reason that I use spaghetti is because I want to identify relative strength. And the reason I want to identify relative strength is because winners become better winners. That's it. You know, this is now probably the hardest time I've ever seen in the market of asset selection is your key differentiator between a successful trader and an unsuccessful trader, and probably leverage and degenning at the top, obviously. But the reality is that I can pick two identical traders, right? They have the same system, they have the same risk appetite, the same criteria, they are literally the same people. They are identical clones. Over the last 2 months, one of them has been trading Altcoin, and one of them has been trading some other random alt. You know, which one would have done better? I can almost guarantee that the one who was trading Altcoin would have done infinitely better. Now, you know, I preach it because this is like my bread and butter, right? This is what I've used for years now, to identify outperformance, underperformance, and allocate my time in terms of where do I want to be extracting value in the market. But, you know, whenever I see like shitcoin requests, I'm like, I almost know what it's going to be before I even fucking go there, right? I know that because I haven't looked at X chart for ages, it's probably going to be dog shit. It's probably not going to be that interesting. Like, the big thing, like, right here, LDO, like, why is that outperforming? What's happened there? Like, don't know. Is this something I really want to trade on an intraday basis? Like, it's one of the only greens on my entire list, like, apart from, like, some of this shit, which is probably mostly requests from other people, right? You know, Hype had a really good run, blah, blah, blah. We talked about this last stream. We talked about this chop consolidation around former all-time highs, which is kind of what we're getting, right? I think I told you about my, like, I bought at 17, I held for a 50% drawdown, and now it's up, like, 2x, basically. But, yeah, I think there's loads of, like, good coins out there. The problem is, you don't want to be holding a good coin. You want to be holding a fucking great coin. Like, you want to be holding an obvious outperformer that the market agrees is an outperformer. And before people ask, I will just bosh this in the chat because, you know, a lot of people will be like, okay, so how do I get your spaghetti, Charlie? Let me just do it. Bosh. There you go. So yeah, that's my like rant on relative strength and altcoins in general. Charlie, my grandpa, can you chart keto? My grandpa, come on, brother. Come on, brother. No, I can't chart keto because I fucking missed it. Despite all my friends telling me this is a really good coin. Like, cheers, mates. Keto. Yeah, at this point, you right. Let's jump back into stuff. So established that I'm kind of still bullish on Bitcoin. I am, you know, quite happy to kind of take long still. Nothing really changed. We went over what would change my bias in terms of how I would position into a short if I wanted to, or what would give me like major cause for concern. There was a question in the chat about, do I consider Bitcoin's position relative to taking altcoin positions? And the answer is absolutely, like particularly in this scenario here, where we've got, you know, declining Bitcoin momentum in a range, and it's just not a good place to risk on. There are definitely other factors that I put into that analysis of whether I want to be balls deep alts or not. So yeah, I'll just leave that there. But it is something to consider. So jumping into Altcoin because I've been banging on about it. Obviously, it's a fucking Charlie stream. All we do is talk about Altcoin. I should see if someone wants to fucking sponsor the stream from Altcoin, because Christ, I might as well get fucking paid for it. You know, so what am I looking for in terms of like trades? So I'm looking for relative strength. I'm looking for like higher time frame like divergences, like in terms of momentum. I'm looking for, you know, where is this? So like you look at this, right? You look at this going across the lows. It's not very clean. It's not a very good example, but we'll go there anyway. If we zoom out, like bear in mind I missed a lot of this because I was away. But we've had this, you know, strong run up, strong range reclaim, really strong run, and then we've had this absolute clusterfuck of just strong sell-off. Now I love this setup in terms of like parabolic move, either way, right, to trade off. And one of the things that I like doing is trying to buy the reversal of essentially a parabolic move, because you normally get something quite nice like that off the back of it, because essentially there's been very little in terms of punishing any shorters, yeah? And the market likes to fuck both sides, let's be honest. It's like a massive whore. Like, it just fucks everything, yeah? If it can. So, I want to jump in on this, and I want to jump in on a counter trend move, but I can't just do it, right? I don't want to just fucking jump in and be like, right, I think this is the bottom. The classic retard move, right? Why do you think it's the bottom? Well, I can see momentum is changing. I can see that, you know, some oscillator is starting to kind of coil the other way. So I'm taking a counter trend move. Okay, counter high time frame trend. That's pretty fucking dangerous. Why do you want to do that, Charlie? Well, you know, I think the Altcoin will have one of the best betas. Okay, well, how can we prove that? Well, what we can do is we can go like low time frame rotations, and we can look and we can see what's actually moving as soon as Bitcoin sort of starts slowing down. If we go to like here, right? So we'll go lower time frame. You know, is the coin that I want to trade pretty good? And so when I was looking earlier, it was here, right? It was good. So you know, yeah, it's pretty high beta in terms of how it compares to everything else. It had a strong start. So we start looking at this. I think it was actually here. And then I was looking, okay, well, what from a price action perspective can I identify as an area where, you know, I can find an invalidation? So how do I know, or how do I put the odds in my favor that this is probably the start of a trending move to the upside? Well, I've got kind of not a lot to go off back here, but as soon as we establish that this rejected, we've established that it had relative strength first thing this morning. We've established, I think there was another rotation back here, yeah, here, that, you know, it's one of the best performers and it's moving outside of the market. So we get that here, and we go, okay, well, I essentially want it to push above these highs and flip this little imaginary pivot line, yeah, and go, okay, well, I want it to flip that into resistance, so sorry, into support. So my support here, resistance here, I want it to flip, and I want it to essentially go, well, this is now support for the next leg up. So that's how you structure this trade. So what we're doing is we're establishing a point of where we're wrong based on price action. We've got the confluence of low time frame relative strength saying, okay, this is a good coin too long, or we think it is a good coin too long. And that's how I've constructed this sort of welcome back to the market Charlie trade, right? I've actually averaged up a little bit, so my average is slightly higher than this, but the thought process is still the same. We've got an initiation candle here in terms of breaking out. And is it perfect in terms of... let's delete some of this shite. Is it perfect in terms of all the thought process and like the specific you know, price? So that line that was going across, you know, do I care that that is... oh, fuck it, I'll just die again. You know, it was here or something like that, right? But in my mind, it's this. It's not it doesn't matter so much like the very specific penny that it is. It's structurally, you can see it, right? You've all got fucking eyeballs. You can see that there is almost this like, you know, Tetris or Pong or whatever it is, you know, the game where, you know, shit just goes like Pong, 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 I guess. There's this level where it can't break above, can't break above, can't break above, can't break above, tries to break above, gets rejected. Same again. And then we finally flip it and it literally turns into sport. Like, it's pretty visually, like, simple. So that's how I've come up with kind of longing for Altcoin for the billionth time. And it might turn into nothing, right? It might be a shit trade, it might just round trip it, might just close it, might close it, you know, here or soon. But you know, the reality is the market isn't particularly strong today. It's not looking particularly wonderful in terms of this rotation, right? Like, Bert ran fucking 8%, got smashed down. Nothing exciting is really happening, right? It's not a particularly good rotation. It's in fact pretty dull. You know, we've done 2% in, you know, 2 hours. Nah, pretty meh in terms of rotation. So yeah, that's it. I said to you to top last. Yeah, I know, mate. I very rarely top last, and this is what I mean. I can never be a James win, but also the reality of top blasting to me is like, well, there's always another trade, always another trade, and that might just be an intraday trade. It might just be an intraday rotation, right? It doesn't have to be like I'm gonna buy this spot bag and hold it for 6 years and do whatever. But equally, I'm not kind of biased to say, well, how do I put it? Yeah, I'm usually just of the opinion that there's always another trade, and top blasting is just never really for me. Like, I'm trying to say something, and my brain's still jet lagged, obviously. But I think the way I'd put it is a good entry means that you can execute freely, so you're not bound by, you know, dog shit thought processes because you FOMO'd in at a top, right? If you FOMO in at a top, you almost like let's go with this, right? Let's go with this. Like you go, okay, well, I had this whole theory about Altcoin. I even had like some meme diagonals, had whatever, you know, everything lined up to be here. But let's say I missed it. I missed the entry. All right. Well, I'm gonna long up here because I missed the entry. Yeah. Well, now you're kind of in this difficult position because, and let's say your stop isn't here, right? Let's say your theoretical stop's here, but you've sized it like a normal trade. You're kind of in this difficult position as soon as it pulls back because you'll want to close it, right? You'll want to close it and you'll go, fuck. Like, well, if I'd have longed it down here, I'd be up massively and it would be a really nice trade. But I didn't. I longed it up here. And now I'm down a fair bit. And you go, well, okay, but that's quite healthy, right? That's quite a healthy little pullback. Like this, healthy, this healthy, this healthy. You know, it happens, right? In a trending market, like it's always like this. It's very rarely like that, right? Very, very rarely. It happens, obviously, but it's quite rare. Now, when you think about this entry versus like even like this entry, like the amount of time that you spend sweating, this is so much better. Like even though it's a bad entry, right, compared to like the high time frame theory and yada yada yada, and I think I executed like here or something like that. So now, you know, I'm round tripping it, whatever, not a problem. But it puts you at such a psychological advantage getting a good entry on things that you know, if I top blasted this or keto or whatever, you know, and you kind of go instantly underwater, it just puts you on the defense. And in my opinion, you always want to be on the attack. And the best way to do that is by positioning when you've either got an edge or you've got a really, really good invalidation. Hope that makes sense. Bit of a long way of saying don't FOMO tops. But yeah, I kind of visualize it as like, if I join the battle here, is it a good position? You know, I have the high ground, Anakin. Don't be foolish, type thing. You know, do you have the high ground up here? If you're longing, the answer is fucking no. Do you remember Mary Snoggervoid from BBC Three? I do. Hund? Nah, mate, I'm not. We're not looking at tons of shitcoins today. I'm going to keep the stream relatively brief. I think altcoins are all weak now, breaking daily trend, now almost 4-hour trend. I think a lot of altcoins look like shit now, to be honest with you. You know, we have to kind of make an informed assessment of, well, you know, this actual like perfect retest in terms of this, like trending down pretty obviously. But you know, I've said the same thing like for months now. What I tend to do is I just like long, and then there'll be a time, which is pretty much now, where I'll long it and it won't work out for a break. I'll lose that trade. I'll probably lose the next trade, and then I'll go, okay, well, we're gonna really sit out until things change. And you know, it'll be a boring couple of weeks in terms of stream, in terms of everything else. But I would rather assume that the trend is going to continue. And, you know, I'm not perfect in terms of timing bottoms or in terms of timing tops, right? But I'm pretty good at milking the meat of this move. So all of this, you know, I've done very, very well out of Altcoin in particular. Trading it on an intraday basis, trading it on like some sort of, not swing, but I suppose it is swing, isn't it? But, you know, I've traded it very, very well. If this reverses, this pulls back above this level, and we get, you know, even just a run to these highs, that's a fucking nice trade in and of itself, right? Like, if we start looking at this from a high time frame perspective, which I haven't done as much because, you know, I'm much more lower time frame, you know, I'm kind of seeing it like this, where if we can reclaim these lows here, and this is just a deviation, you know, I think we get this run up to here. And if we get that in and of itself, it's a fucking lovely trade. And what can I do to kind of get some of that action early? Well, I can just play my little low time frame trade that we talked about a minute ago. Right? Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Wouldn't it be logical to touch 1 to 1.01 first? Down here? Maybe. But you know, if you're saying that that's the like next logical move, right? That's a decent short trade if you can find a good entry to it. I just think it's too late to be looking at short trades from here, right? The short trade was here, in my opinion, like, or here. You know, basically it was re-acceptance into this form of consolidation. Back here. Like these highs. And these deviations above it, essentially, or like, let's just do this. Make it a bit nicer. So these highs and this across here. That they were the points of, if you wanted to short it, that's it. I don't want to short something that's down absolutely massively and has been one of the best performers, right? It just doesn't make any sense. It's down 33% from the highs, being one of the best performers. There's some clear like divergences across these lows, and whether this is just a little, you know, little bounce up to the trend potentially, who knows? But I don't want to be shorting something after the major move, like in that direction, when the market, broadly speaking, isn't too bad, right? As in, Bitcoin is still holding like 105. You know, it's basically bounced from this form of consolidation here. I've got no major short bias on Bitcoin, even though, you know, there is a bit of a trend shift in terms of these lower highs. Again, in my opinion, it's too late to jump on the short bandwagon. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in a week's time we come back and we're down here somewhere. But that's absolutely fine. I'm willing to be wrong. I am, in fact, a professional being wronger. for lack of better words. You'll have to apologize. You will have to put up with my jet laggedness today, I'm afraid. My sincere apologies. But yeah, that's kind of my thought process. You know, we're 33% down from the highs. No guarantee of anything, obviously. Luna went minus 99% and then minus 99% again. So just because it's down doesn't mean it's going to go up. But it's a case of, you know, what we talked about before, which is, am I entering this trade in a good location to do business? Is it going to put me in a position of strength when I look at it and go, well, okay, am I, you know, longing up here? You know, shorting down here, in my opinion, is the equivalent of longing up there. You don't really have an edge. You're not in a great place to take on risk, to take on that kind of risk. Just doesn't make any sense. Whereas like here, you know, do I want to long or short this? Well, again, the short was kind of at an extreme. We're now coming back to an area of that we think we flipped as support. We're potentially going to break this, you know, downtrending, local downtrending move, just in like the, yeah, we're on that fucking 1 minute chart, right? So let's, you know, put things in perspective. But, you know, it's trending down. We're starting to get a bid. This looks like it's going to run. And actually, you know, even this in and of itself, just as a little runner, just on an intraday basis, I mean, it's either going to drop and we're going to just take a quick L, or actually one of the best performing alts in terms of this rotation is going to kind of keep running. And this is a good place to kind of jump in and run. Obviously not financial advice, do your own research. This is educational purposes only, the stream, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I'm kind of betting on upwards continuation for certain alts. And I would rather be on that side of it for now. That may change. Yearly looks great. Yearly, what, Bitcoin? Let's have a look. Don't even have a fucking year on here. I mean, it's a pretty wild chart, isn't it? Pretty mental. Very, 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 very strong. I mean, one of the biggest Ponzi's ever. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Let's go on to a couple of other things. There's not really much else I want to cover today, to be honest. I'm, you know, just enjoying life, chilling. What's going on with the music? Let's go, Bosh. You know, ETH BTC, like, ETH is just painful. You know, everyone's like, oh, ETH is going to $3,000, which I don't know why that's such a fucking outlandish prediction. Do you know what I mean? If someone said that down here, like, fair enough. But my stream's full of, oh, sorry, my feed's full of people being like, alright, it's going to 3K. Like, okay, well done, boys. Fucking, like, 14%. Okay, great. Massive, massive prediction. Stop the press. Don't know, people were calling it, like, down here. Fair enough. But everyone's fucking hyped. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable levels of fucking dog shit insight across the board so far on CT. I just the mind boggles. But yeah, for me, ETH looks good structurally still, right? We're in a little consolidation range. I'm kind of hoping it does what I used to call the giraffe pattern, which is you get a leg up, you get a consolidation, then you get the next leg up, and then that's it. That you get this kind of distributive kind of range at the top. You know, the old ICT model is like leg 1 distribution, leg 2, you know, leg 3, like the old classic market makers model, right? So this kind of shite. For me, like, do I want a massive ETH position? Not really. ETH BTC, again, it's the same picture, right? We've just got this consolidation, a little bit of strength here. If we get ETH moves, the better play for me is Pepe, which I was wrong on earlier this week. So I'm happy to share losses with you guys because, you know, I'm not a LARP in terms of only wins. I do lose fairly frequently. but you don't need a 100% win rate to make money in this game. Obviously, that's not how it works. You just need to manage your risk to the downside. Ask James Wynn about it. This wasn't actually my trade, so I don't know why the fuck it's still like that. But the thought process was actually over here, and it was the consolidation of Pepe into a bit of ETH strength. This was a relatively strong move, so the market was not doing too much and Pepe was running. So I was interested in getting a bag of Pepe, so I got some Pepe here. The thought process was, we just run it. It runs and goes to, wherever it was. Kind of this move replicated. So that same model that I just spoke about, the leg up, the consolidation, the next leg up, which is essentially this here, didn't play out. The idea was not right? It was not right at all in terms of, sorry, this is a mess. It was not right because it was too early, but I was obviously not actively intraday trading. I very clearly outlined my plans in the group, which is if I'm intraday trading this, I'd be much more tight with my stops, but because I'm in NY, I couldn't be. I kind of just had to take a swing and a stab at it like that. The actual kind of play out was here in terms of running former highs and doing that, but then obviously the entire market died and this whole thing just kind of stopped. And Pepe as a form of like high time frame strength hasn't been as good. It's here, there, that little blue one, as it was back then. But we might actually be seeing, a fresh run now on Pepe. And this would be my play of choice. So what I'd be looking at on Pepe at the moment is, either playing this, which is, in my opinion, a little bit late, and I would rather play Altcoin. But this range, if we can reclaim that range, and we see a bit of ETH strength, then we just buy some Pepe. And we find a trade on Pepe that's something, like, I don't know, maybe like this. Maybe a bit of a smaller position size, wider stops. Does that make sense? So this is kind of what I'm looking at for like next legs potentially, but I really want to see a little bit of strength ideally. And what I tend to do is, I'm down on like these like low time frame charts to look for that outperformance, to look for that relative strength. TRB again, oh no. We'll go to TRB because that's a fucking mess of a coin. And I made so much money on it before when it was ran by the cabal. Actually, it doesn't look too bad, does it? Fuck me. And when I say it doesn't look too bad, I mean from a like rotational perspective, right? Like, because you're basically wrong and only longs if it comes under this level. And here, all you've got is, it's been bought up, it's been bought up, it's been bought up. Like, you've literally got support going across here. And, downtrend leading into a strong expansive candle on relative strength. I might have to long some fucking TRB, this is disgusting. Like, this is what I mean, this is like rotations sort of coming in fast. Pure outperformance in terms of low time frame relative strength, right? So stuff like this. Like, this is what gets the juices going in terms of, okay, well, can I catch this rotation? I'm obviously a bit late to it because I was streaming and whatnot. But you can see that on low time frame spaghetti that massively outperformed, right? Oh, that's audio. I'm out. Let's do that. Let's make it a bit bigger so we can actually see the fucker. Yeah, you can see here it just starts like running and ripping. Like, so to me, that's a nice potential intraday rotation. Maybe it doesn't go this high, right? You just trend follow it until it loses like local trend or changes structure in terms of MS, you know. Prints a low high, then get out of it, just try and make a few shackles. But if it runs, it'll be an absolute face melter because I assume they cornered supply again, and it's just one of those absolutely horrendous coins that gets to fuck, and they just remove all sell side liquidity and they just pump it. We'll see. UN agreed to pause memes on ETH for 90 days. That would be nice. When I replied to Solana the other day and said, you know, they're like, what do you want to see on Solana? And I'm like, a cap on fucking new launches? Can you just like cap it so that there's only like 5 coins a day, please? That would be really nice. You know, that would be pretty fucking epic. But obviously that's not going to happen because that's where they get their volume from. That's yada yada yada. But whatever, we can try. Do I think desync? Do you think desync has the same fate as POW? Let's have a look at desync. It's tough because like I'm quite heavily invested in desync, and obviously they were stream partners for a long time. And I'm much more bullish on desync than I am POW because I've got a fat bag of it, right? And in my opinion, like this is kind of accumulation, and hopefully at some point it breaks out, holds above, and then runs again. But, like I said to you earlier, it's very difficult for projects to stand out at the moment in terms of why long this when you can long Altcoin, as an example. And I know I keep going back to Altcoin, but in terms of market structure, until anything kind of breaks out and starts moving and starts establishing a bullish market structure, it's probably not worth jumping in, like, unless you are a firm believer in the project, right? And that's me being totally objective against my own bags and logical reason and all that kind of stuff. Or sorry, it's probably me being very logical and reasoned as opposed to just being emotionally attached to my own bags. But the opportunity cost of holding something like this whilst other things are moving is probably too high, you know, in truth. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is buy breakouts, then a validation below the breakout area, and if it runs, great. You're gonna, you know, 4 or 5 extra money probably. If it doesn't, then it's probably not the best place to have your money allocated. The upside to stuff not moving particularly badly is, you know, it's not down too much, right? It's not been too bad in terms of, you know, drawdown if you've been positioning in this range. Welcome back, Ledge. Hope you enjoyed MY. I certainly did. I predict Bitcoin moves at least $1 in the next hour. You can send my money in now. Yeah, I think it probably will, mate. And you know, I do have a lot of spot bags, just to be very clear. I have spot bags of stuff that I've held for a long time. I've had spot bags of stuff that I've, you know, invested in the pre-sale in a long time ago. So I see someone mentioned Psy, for example, so Sharp AI. I mentioned this a long time ago. I invested in this pre-sale whenever it was. I actually saw it. I saw the chart the other day, and I was like, oh, this is actually like, again, you know, reclaimed said range. You know, is trending up. You know, it's so big. You know, it's actually done well. It's moving. It's moving in the right direction. It's a couple of X off the lows. Let's have a look. Or maybe just, you know. Okay, 4x off the lows. Fair play. You know, 4x off the lows. Decent. Decent in terms of it's moving, it's going up, it's going in the right direction. Like, you know, you can't really ask for much more. I'm not sure about Thai, but yeah. I've still got a bag of this one probably vested somewhere in some contract that I probably need to find, claim, and obviously just instant market dump. No, I'm joking. But yeah, you know, again, disclosure, invested in this a long time ago. Yeah, this is pretty good in terms of structural trend, right? You're getting higher highs, you're getting higher lows. That's good. Simple as that. You're above trend, so you're above this trend here. Like, what do you want? Like, it's pretty decent. Would I buy it right here? No. Would I wait for a little pullback and look at this and go, okay, well, structurally your trend, this is trend continuation if you're there. So let's go, daily. Let's delete some of this stuff. Let's just do this and go, okay, redraw this to fit in with the daily chart. So this here, pullback, that's a simple higher low with an invalidation of range lows. Seems like a much better trade-off than than buying just blindly here. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I think I don't think there's too much more to say. What else is random shit running? OGN. There you go. Why can't my fucking altcoins look like that? Come on. Come on. I suppose I feel like we should probably address TradFi. I drew this the other day and I was like, this is what we kind of have to really hope doesn't happen, which is you have this huge run up and then everyone gets the like complacency shoulder, which is, okay, well, we just need to return to normal. So if you think about the Wall Street cheat sheet thing, this is the like complacency bounce where we just have to return to a new normal. Like, I am just like dreading like this period here, because if this does fall over for whatever reason, Trump tariffs, I don't know, fucking World War III, God knows, right? Like, it's just a really bad place in terms of high time frame bias, I guess. So, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm certainly not positioned yet for this to happen, but it's a bit of a kind of worry at the back of my mind. You just eyeball the lines because it's not perfectly retesting support from previous candles based on discretion. Yeah, I'm not interested in like when I first started, I was like fully fucking autistic. I'd zoom into like the 1 minute chart and I'd be like, oh, it has to touch exactly, like, nah, it's bollocks, mate. What you're trying to predict, right? I'll tell you a story. That's one of Magus's, and it's one of my favorites because it illustrates it. You're trying to predict if some guy is getting their pizza delivered. That's what you're trying to fucking predict, right? And you're like, Charlie, what the fuck do you mean? No, I'm not. I'm trying to predict if prices are going to go up or down, or it's going to stop, or momentum's going to change, or whatever. Yeah. I completely get that. But Magus was trading, I think it was Gala or something. It was some like illiquid shitcoin, right? And it's the pizza story. It's quite like famous in the Paragon group because he was trading this, and I don't know when it was. I think it was here. Let's just, for argument's sake, say it was here. It wasn't. It was a long time ago. It was when Gala was actually like fucking relevant. But Magus literally longed this shit down here with like massive size, ran it all the way up, was sat at his PC and was like, shit, I better like order some food. Like maybe this was like a 10-minute time frame, not a daily. And he literally marketed out here because his pizza got fucking delivered. He literally topped the market by market selling like, I don't know, a fucking huge position straight into the books. And the reason that he did it is because his pizza got delivered. So, there's a lot of people that will be like, well, it has to be, exactly this and exactly that. And then when you start accounting for the variance around things and going, well, I'm trying to predict if a pizza's going to get delivered. I don't think it matters as much as people give credence to the actual, pure, the line has to touch exactly and all this kind of stuff. It's definitely good practice. But, you look at my Altcoin kind of long thesis from earlier, and I'm talking about like an area where I'm interested, right? It's not the specific to like this. This is a bit more of an area, right? It's not exactly perfect. And if I change time frames, like my closes change, obviously, my opens change, everything changes in terms of candle structure. So now I might draw it here because it fits a bit better. If I go back to the 30 minute, I might not even do it there. I might do it here. It actually doesn't look that great from like how these candles have interacted with it because they've just kind of smashed through it, right? Like, yeah, and then you go back to the 5 minute and you go, well, this is pretty perfect. Like this this is not great, but it's also not terrible. So what am I really interested in? You know, I'm just interested in the area where I expect a reaction to happen. And also, I'll make the one point and then I'll stop ranting. The one point that I honestly think is the area and the level is not as important as the reaction to that area or level, right? I do not trade off lines. Like, I will not go, okay, price has touched support, I buy. I will go, price has touched support, it's done this, and it's not really done much. I'm not buying that. Price has touched support, it's done this, and then it's reclaimed. I might buy that if there's some relative strength. Price has done this, it's done this. I will almost always buy that because it's literally said, no, fuck you. We're not trading here. The market has such high demand that will probably go into relative strength, and you'll see it on Spaghetti. And it'll be a nice, not free trade, no such thing as free trade in my opinion, unless you're like arbing and doing some very, very clever and complex strats, which I'm not, right? So, you know, just because it hits a line or an imaginary area, all my lines are doing are trying to identify areas that I think certain behaviors will happen. I'm trying to find demand or, you know, supply, and that's it. So the reaction is far more important than the actual meme level. And you told him more pizza? Yeah. So, Timothy Lynn, hopefully that answers. Simultaneously told the delivery guy to buy a shitload. Yeah, probably. Yeah, buy Gala, mate. It's that cat meme, isn't it? It's like, buy Gala. No, I said buy Gala as in BYE. But yeah, like this trade looks like it's getting stopped now. Which is fair enough. Market's pretty weak. We'll take the L. We move on. We find the next one. Okay, so what have we got going on then? I think that's pretty much it. I think if we get a nice little long zoo on Altcoin, so you know, if we find that this is actually this area here, bosh. If we reclaim it, if we start pushing, then yeah, maybe we go again. But market as a whole looks not great on this rotation. We'll just wait and see what happens. Support and resistance is as important as entries, as areas of liquidity in my opinion. Retail always long support, shorts resistant, whale, some for stops. No. I think you get yourself tangled in that kind of thinking, right? So you kind of go, well, okay, you know, retail are shorting here, retail have stops here and all this kind of stuff. And I agree with the theory that if you do something like this, you know, and you take stops and you see a good reaction, and you know, we are playing that kind of game of 3D chess that, you know, now we've probably got some short stops here. So if we take that, then you know, something is different in terms of we've wiped out a lot of participants. And you can see that obviously if you're monitoring open interest and going, well, okay, you know, this move was fueled by either spot buying or positions closing, either forcedly or you know, willingly. So, you know, liquidation or just, you know, opening and closing of positions. There's definitely a lot to be said around that, around how price moves. But how price moves isn't as interesting to me as pure momentum and relative strength, because I don't trade using that kind of how price moves, right? I trade on what it's actually doing. Whereas other people, you know, using order flow and stuff like that will, you know, dive into open interest and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they will start looking at this and going, well, okay, what is actually kind of going on here? And what is going on over time? How are we from an OI perspective? Is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Blah, blah, blah. But there are much better people out there to explain it than me. You know, over time, OI has just been going up and up and up. you know, we're still at a pretty high level of OI, to be honest, considering the price. Yeah, I don't really care. Maybe we do a bit of a, you know, bigger cascade. And this whole, you know, jumping into longs is just too early. You know, we do that full-on, like, Bosch move down and wipe everybody out who was on the long side, and you will certainly see OI close. I imagine something like that if this plays out like that. Alright, ladies and gents, thank you all for being here. I will be back to a normal time on Tuesday this week coming. So, we will hopefully have a few more active trades next week and jump into various coins and do a bit more rotational trading next week. But yeah, in the meantime, stay safe, like the video, subscribe, send me $1 million, subscribe to not only this channel, but sign up to BonkBot and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, stay strong. And I will see you on the other side. Have a good weekend. Au revoir.